In the video today, I'm going to build some traction on the cheap. You need to add traction to your boots. So how do you do it? Well, in my case, I found this used pair of Patagonia Riverwalkers on eBay. They're basically new, untouched. I don't think they've ever really been underwater. I got them for 50 bucks. So in that case, the plan that I have, I don't really feel bad if I screw this up. So we're gonna build this together. So the idea of these is really pretty simple. You gotta find some aluminum discs. These are gonna be your studs that you gotta bolt to the bottom of your boots. I'm gonna drill a hole in these in just a minute. And I found a multi-pack of stainless steel hardware. We're gonna run different size bolts because the heel and the toe section of your sole is probably a different length. So we gotta find the perfect length so that the bolt doesn't poke up and hit you in the bottom of your foot, possibly causing a rip or just discomfort in general. And then for the nut, I found these, they're what are called T-weld nuts. They're basically like you would drill a hole in a piece of metal, tack weld these nuts onto it so it sits flush. But in my case, this is gonna sit down into the sole, under your insole, and that's gonna be the nut for our bolts. Right, now this is where we get to be kind of creative. I'm gonna do 5 of these per boot. You could do more, I'm gonna do less. I feel like I want rubber touching the ground for the most part, and then these can grab on to the edges of whatever rocks that just happen to be at these contact points. So I'm just gonna kind of feel around here and try to mark where I want them to go. I'm gonna grab a nail, sort of dab a hole in there. This is kind of the general pattern that I think I'm gonna go for. 2 on the heel, 2 on the balls of the foot, and 1 on the toe. It's kind of somewhere in this vicinity. I've seen others where they had 4 on the back, small ones in the middle, but I plan on doing hiking in these, so I want enough rubber to still hike, but enough of these to grab onto the rock. So I can always add more if I need to later. That's not scary at all. So let's see how these T-nuts fit in there. Perfect. Okay. So at this point, we've got to do some experimenting. I got to find the right length bolt that will thread this in tight, but I can already tell that's going to be too long because the nuts are not that long. So I need a quite a bit shorter one. We need one that can engage with all the threads on the back of this nut without poking through and coming in contact with the insoles. Okay, I need even shorter. I can feel the nut pushing through the back. All right, that's good. So I assume the other one should be good. On the other ball, definitely going to need longer screws for this part. All right, so that's what it's gonna look like. That looks pretty sweet, looks good. So what I'm gonna do now is take these bolts back out, put some red thread locker on them, then tighten them down so they don't ever back out when I need them most on the river. Well, it turns out I don't have any red thread locker, so I'm going with blue today. So we'll see if this is strong enough to keep these bolts from backing out. I'm a little worried about it.
Five minutes later.
There we have it. I think that turned out pretty sweet. Looks pretty much just as good as the real deal. So now let's do the other boot and then let's go fishing. Yes!
Good job.
Yeah, buddy. All right, so let's talk about these things. Traction was phenomenal. I don't know how to put it into words other than these things just locked onto rocks and they didn't let go. I'm still sort of testing the limits of them. There were a couple off-camber rocks where, I was like that and I was worried that I'd slide off, but I didn't. They just grip and I don't know, that's all I can say. That's what you're looking for, right? They hold on to where you step. I did a fair amount of hiking. It was about a half a mile down to the water and back up. And while there was some clickety-clackety, I didn't really feel like I was walking on stilts or like it was affecting my hiking on the gravel too much. But once you get in the water, that's where they really shine. They really just hold on. It's hard to describe what that's like. But in the past, it was a song and a dance. I mean, sometimes I'd have good traction with my rubber soles. I also had cold cutters, which didn't last more than a day or two. But in general, it was like, take a step and pray. Hope it doesn't slip. Because sometimes there might be a slimy rock you didn't see. You put all your weight on it and just whoosh, it's gone. So being able to count on your boots to hold on is really, really important. Because if you can't wade confidently, you can't fish confidently, and you're just not going to catch as many fish. I mean, it's just a matter of fact. So this particular stream isn't really known for being a tough wader, but in the future we'll take it into some bigger water, some that are known, like the Pitt River, for example. That's notoriously difficult for being tough to wade through. We'll test it in some bigger water, and I'll report back how they do. So obviously I was only on the water for 1 day, so longevity is still a question mark. I don't know how long these are going to last. Obviously there's some wear and tear on the top of these studs, but they're designed to wear down. They're supposed to be softer than what you're walking on, so they will wear down over time. And that's kind of the beauty of this system, is over time, as they wear down, you can unscrew these bolts, put fresh ones in, and you're good to go. They don't really go dull because it's just a flat surface metal that grips onto things. So the more surface area you have, in theory, the more grip you have. And that gets me to my point about how sparse these are. I had a friend of mine say, oh, you're probably going to want some more studs on there. And taking some advice from other companies like Rot Treads, which I basically modeled these after, they found recently that less is more. And I never really felt like I wanted more. It's this weird thing where you want both types of materials contacting the rock. So you have two kinds of traction. At least that's my theory. For now, I'm happy with how many I put on there. My only regret was, and it's the nature of how I procured these aluminum discs, and we'll get to that in a minute, but the machine shop that I found, they just went through their spare material bin and they happened to find 1-inch diameter aluminum bar stock, and I think I would have liked a little bit larger 1¼ inch bar stock. That way you just have a little bit more metal to wear away over time, so it'll just last a little bit longer. I don't think it'll give me more traction, I just think they'll wear less quickly. As far as my choice to use blue Loctite on these instead of red Loctite, which is the permanent type, the type that's not really made to come out, I don't have any loose ones. All 10 of them are locked down and tight, and I think that's, again, that goes into the longevity category. I don't know, time will tell, we'll see how long those hold up. Ideally, blue would be perfect, because like I said, when they wear down, you can unscrew them, put new ones in, and go again. But you don't want them coming out on the river when you don't want them to, so I'll keep an eye on that for you guys. One last little thing that I'll talk about regarding traction and my ability to wade comfortably is that the debate in the wading boot world where do you want sensitivity or do you want robustness to protect your foot? And technically this is the first pair of real wading boots I've used. In the past I was basically using a modified pair of ultra hiking boots. So I'm not sure how typical these are, if they're stiff or if they're flexible compared to other brands, but basically I had a lot less sensitivity to the ground. And for me that was a little difficult, hard to adjust to, because I'm used to stepping on a rock and my ankle will roll to sort of match the slope of that angle, where on these, I don't really have any ankle roll. It does go forward to back okay, but side to side, I felt that was a challenge. I'm used to using my ankle more, and that's kind of a bummer. I kind of wish this had more flexibility in this direction, because I like being able to have my ankle move and do some of the work. That way, when I step and it's an off-camber rock, my whole leg has to shift to grab on, and that was a challenge for me with my wading. And I imagine with time I may get used to that. I would like to try some other boots, so if there's some other companies like Sims or Patagonia or anyone else that wants to send me some other boots to try, I'd love to compare them. But I don't know that I like having a super rigid sole. I like the protection aspect, but I also like having sensitivity. So that's just my style. Maybe I'll find another pair of boots that are a little more sensitive in the future. But that all is secondary to how much grip we have. It was so worth having that one little change in how my foot works to be able to have that grip. So I'll keep you posted if I ever try some boots and they're a little more sensitive. Also in the comments, let me know if you have some boots that you've tried that are more sensitive than others. Yeah, leave a comment, let me know. So the biggest challenge with sourcing these is the aluminum discs. The bolts and the nuts, those are pretty easy to find stainless hardware pretty much anywhere. I found them online. You could probably get them at your local hardware store. But the aluminum discs aren't an off-the-shelf item. A lot of what I found, pre-made on places like eBay, they were all thin discs, like maybe cut off from stamped out of sheets. There wasn't much this thick and this small of a diameter. So I ordered a piece of 1¼ aluminum bar stock that was 12 inches long. And I was going to take it to a machine shop and have them cut it. But while I was waiting for it to get delivered, I just walked into the machine shop and like, hey, can you guys do this for me? So they're like, oh, okay, come with me. And so they just led me out into their shop, and they were looking through spare material bins, and he happened to find a nice piece of 1-inch diameter. And he's like, will this work for you? I'm like, sure, let's do it. And so he literally loads it into a saw, starts cutting it for me, and then literally 10 minutes later, I had 24 of these aluminum discs cut, and he only charged me 10 bucks for it. So that's super awesome. You do need some tools. I mean, if you have a horizontal bandsaw, you could cut these yourself. I have a drill press, so I was able to drill them and countersink the hole for the stud. But I mean, if you give your machine shop enough warning, I bet they can do all the fabrication on these discs for you. And it's really not that expensive. It just takes you some time. All right, everybody, there you go. There's some traction on the cheap. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. You can also ask me a little more quickly in the Discord. That link is also down below the like button. I hope that brought you some value. If you like, I do sell flies, and I have a whole myriad of fly tying supplies that you can find at my website, driftstone.co. Every purchase helps me continue going and making these videos for you guys, so your support is very much appreciated. And until next time, everybody, see you on the water.